Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our NBA DFS thoughts. I totally butchered the title, but guys, I got good news for you in case you can't tell. I have a Hall's cough drop in. I took the advice of my listener base, and hopefully we'll make it through a whole episode without coughing fits. For those of you who don't know me, I am Nick from CWE on all of your favorite daily fantasy sites. I am highly irritated at the fact that we are growing days and days closer to losing NBA DFS for about 5 months, and we'll be stuck with baseball. Fortunately, at Research Fantasy, we will be covering PGA, NASCAR, the CFL, so we will have no shortage of other sports to keep us busy, but the downside is they don't occur every day like they do with baseball. I know I said I'd get to our NASCAR recap video yesterday, but Northeast Ohio got slammed with a pretty ridiculous storm that cut off our power for about 5 hours. So once it came back on, I actually had to do work, and that was the end of any hope. Last night saw the first game in 2 series. Cleveland went up 1-0 on Toronto. Houston absolutely demolished San Antonio, 126-99. If that stays consistent and it's Houston in the finals against presumably Golden State, that is going to be one heck of a series. Let's get things started today with Washington visiting Boston. Boston already has a 1-0 lead. I think this may end up being the most fantasy-friendly series in the entire playoffs. I'm really bullish on, honestly, just trying to play as many guys as you can from this game. But without going into the Utah-Golden State game, we've just seen these Utah games be pretty low scoring, not always a lot of guys breaking over the 5x threshold. Tonight for Washington, I think you can look at John Wall and Bradley Beal. I think both of them have upside to cross the 5x mark. Jay Crowder, Otto Porter, his price has not jumped, and he just came off a pretty nice double-double. So I think if anybody, in terms of value in your lineup, it's got to be Otto Porter, and I'm sure he'll be as highly owned as humanly possible. I want to be harsh on Markieff Morris because he's just not that great of a basketball player on a whole. He can go through good spurts, and he started and ended the Atlanta series nicely. Did get hurt early in the game. It does sound like he plans on playing, though he says he plans on playing now. He seems unlikely to play. That does bump the overall upside of guys like Jason Smith and Kelly Oubre. It looks like Oubre might be the guy, though. And then you can also look at Marcin Gortat. His price is up there, and I think he's got the most volatile production of anybody in that game. So I don't know that I'd be extremely bullish on him. On the Boston side of the ball, for me, it just starts and ends with Al Horford and Isaiah Thomas. Al Horford's just such a good basketball player, and he's one of those guys he's never going to be in that elite class of players, but if you can't get an elite class guy, Al Horford is probably the next best thing. And he's got triple-double upside, and he's showed it last game. Price seems a little bit high, but when you put up stat lines like 21, 9, and 10, that's not really too high. I think he's pretty safe, too. I can't see too many situations where he's dropping below that 32-point marker. Isaiah Thomas, I like him just as much, though. I think he's far more volatile. I'll say that word several times through this broadcast. But, he's got a ton of upside if his shot's falling. You look at guys like Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder, who are punt options, in my opinion, because I'm just not convinced that their production as a whole will be consistent. I think Crowder is priced way too high for me, especially since through the first series of 7 games, he was able to exceed value no times. It wasn't until we moved on to the Washington series. Now, if he does it 2 times in a row, definitely maybe willing to give him a little more consideration. I guess I'm too hard on Avery Bradley. He's been pretty sharp 4 out of his last 5, but when he's not sharp, it's a bloodbath for his owners. He just does not compute, just does not come through. And if you want to take a flyer on somebody who has a little bit but not much upside at their price, Terry Rozier, 2,300 on FanDuel. His stat line has been 16.6, 3.2, 13.6, 18.4, 17.1. At that kind of a price, if you want to really fill your lineup, I don't really hate the idea of playing Rozier. Moving on to Utah and Golden State. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Utah Jazz. They're one of those teams that, first of all, as long as their core can stay healthy, and their core to me is Hill, Hayward, and Gobert, this should not be a walk in the park. For the last 2 years, I feel like Golden State has legitimately struggled with the Jazz because not only do they play at such a slow pace, but they're very good at the perimeter and the rim, and it just really it's tough for Golden State to do the things that they want to do. But they're still a team loaded with such great talent that even though I am a big believer in Utah, it just feels foolish to kind of try to look past Golden State. On the Utah side of the ball, I don't hate George Hill. I don't hate Gordon Hayward. I think those guys are in decent enough position to where they can produce. I'm just not so sure at both of their salaries. I think I really don't know which one I'd rather go to. If we're talking guys that could possibly hit 50, it's going to be Gordon Hayward for me. If we're talking guys who can most regularly hit 5X, it still might be Hayward. Honestly, Hill was not a very consistent player throughout the first round of the playoffs. Did not do much to inspire a ton of confidence. But that's really where I'm looking. You have everyone outside of them just really, do you trust Rodney Hood? He's not seeing enough time on the court. Joe Ingles is a possibility, but his price, I guess his price is fair. I don't hate it, but I also don't see him being a guy who's regularly going to crack that threshold. Derek Favors, he said he's got lower back soreness because why wouldn't he? Why would he be able to make it through any portion of a season without getting hurt? Not to mention the fact that he was hurt the vast majority of the season. Why would he be able to make it through the playoffs? If he's unable to play, I definitely think things shift back to Joe Johnson. I think he becomes a pretty strong play, and just because of the usage he's seeing, it kind of makes sense to put him in a good amount of your lineups, and that's really going to be just about it from that side of the game. Rudy Gobert, let me touch on him. Just a little too expensive on FanDuel for me. Needs over 45 fantasy points. He did not crack 40 fantasy points one time. It's possible that he can. I'm just not really bullish on the idea that it happens. On the Golden State side of things, for me, Draymond's too expensive. Clay's way too expensive. I don't hate the idea of going with Durant or Steph. It's just that Utah is such a slow-paced team, and I know that we want to think like, well, Golden State can take them away from that and make them play fast. Good teams don't move away from their strategy to appease the other team. So I don't think all of a sudden we're going to see Utah as a high-possession team. So JaVale McGee, I think that you can still keep punting on him. Outside of that, there's just nothing that I really see here. All of the production for for Utah. I guess Patrick McCaw, he's a very, very risky option that priced at 3,500 could work out. But overall, I mean, I would stick to Steph or Durant. Would you play both? I wouldn't. I would probably stick to one or the other, and to be completely honest with you, I would just do whatever I could to get 8 guys from the Washington-Boston game in. That'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for listening. Congratulations to me for making it through an entire episode without coughing. I told you guys it was going away. I'm sure the hauls helped out a little bit, though. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com, sign up for our NBA mailing list, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.